So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in and watching this, because we have a global audience today. I'm super excited to introduce to you Victoria Pitt. Victoria has been one of my dear friends we were trying to figure it out, 10, 12 years now. We've been connected through social media. We've never met in person. We connected with the same interests in spirituality and kind of life stuff, and have remained connected all these years. We've both gone through so much during this time, and recently she started sharing a little bit more of herself personally, which she's been a little inhibited to do, which we all are. And I am just gently nudging her to come out into the light a little bit more because she has such amazing presence and she's so beautiful to be with. Um, she lives in, and I'm going to destroy this so we'll all laugh together, in Shropshire, England. I'm told to say it like Worcestershire. And she lives with her husband, her two children, her four dogs, her two pigs, and her two swans, and probably more, in this gorgeous home. Hopefully, she'll send us some little photos I can crop into this because it is magical. And so, welcome, Victoria. It's nice to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you. It's so kind of you to have me.
Absolutely. And I will be really transparent in this. I've been recording these videos for a long time now. It just comes second nature to me. I can grab my phone, I can do it, and I can publish it pretty quickly. But I forget, for other people who don't do this regularly, that this can be a little intimidating. So we're all going to be super gentle today to Victoria, who's stepping out of her comfort zone a little bit. And yeah, I just want to interview her about this amazing sharing of hers. Um, First, let's back up a tiny bit, if we could. And I'd like you to maybe perhaps tell those who are following a little bit of what started you down, I would call it the wanderer seeker journey, that you and I found each other and discovered each other and grabbed each other's hands and started walking each other home on. Whatever you're comfortable with, that led you to start this spiritual journey that led you to where we are today. Just a tiny little fragment so people understand.
That's a really big question, and I should try and get it into a few sentences. For me, I think having children was absolutely a catalyst. The pressures and the responsibility of becoming a mother, and then having two children of my own to protect. Yeah. I think from that, a whole different perspective, was gained. And to be honest, initially it was incredibly stressful. And off the back of that, I started to question everything, my role here as a human, my role here as a mother.
Yes, I totally get being a mom and that kind of being a impetus to start this journey. I totally get that. And as a single mother, I think that was one of the things that drew me to you, as I saw you with your children and engaging and all the things that you were doing. And I said, there's somebody I want to connect with. And that's, I think, where we started chatting back and forth. You mentioned that, having those children and being a protector was a big part of it. But is there anything else outside of that, maybe even before you had children, that started you, asking the bigger questions of life?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I really, looking back, it's easy to say, I've always been on this path. I think we all can say that retrospectively. As they say, life's to be lived forward and understood backwards. And, looking back, I think I've always been on this path. I had a spiritual guide from probably when I was about 18. Then I was asking the questions of like, why are we here? Who am I? Most of those questions are often dressed up in stress or trauma or seeming problems, it's been my experience that it's often when our back is up against the wall that we start to really look. Life has a way of, kind of backing you into a corner to get you to ask the important questions.
For sure.
So yeah, probably when I was 18, definitely, I was already asking those kind of big spiritual questions. And my teacher then was a Course in Miracles teacher, and he really was a big support and a big help at a tricky time. It kind of went on from there. I think really my journey really intensified from then on.
Yeah, that makes sense. As soon as you start asking the questions, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But I think what I also love to say is when the student is ready, the teacher disappears, right? We find that it always begins and ends with this self-work, right? We can go out there in the dream, but the reality is it seems to lead us back to ourselves every time, back to our source, back to ourselves. And I think that's why I fell in love when I saw you had posted this modality we're going to talk a little bit about that you refer to as color mirrors. And I was fascinated as I was doing my kind of review of what you had posted some time ago. And what drew me in immediately was, of course, you. I always love to see what's going on in your world. So I was so excited to see you had posted an update. And then when I saw these gorgeous, colorful jars that are behind you, or bottles, I had to stop and watch it and really take it in. And I loved how you were sharing the bottles. Um, so with that, maybe just tell us a little bit about this modality and what it means to you, and then maybe we can walk over and look at them a little bit.
Yeah, sure. The system that I work with is called Colour Mirrors. It was brought through by a lovely lady called Melissa Jolly, who's a South African lady, and she still makes all the bottles herself, and her helper Anna make all the bottles themselves in her garage in South Africa. I think the system started with the first 36 bottles, and she thought that would be the end. But naturally, over the years and as her life unfolded, more bottles kept coming through. They're all a combination of oil and water. They have the bottom fraction, which is water, which is said to represent the subconscious. And then we have the top fraction, which is oil, which represents the conscious mind.
So cool. So cool. Yeah. So were you, when you found out about this and you saw this, were you immediately drawn in, I've got to go find out what that's about. I've got to go learn. Like what made you then take what you saw and say, I want to go learn about that?
No, to be honest, initially I thought it was a bit, I probably felt it was really uncomfortable when I first started working with it, because I was working with it through a friend. And it was all new to me, so it felt really weird to pick a colour. How are you feeling? Pick a colour, and I'd feel a bit silly and just go with it. And I always say, I think if I'd have discovered it, 10 years before, it wouldn't have been for me at all. I would have walked straight past it. But it just kept coming back into my life. It just kept coming back to me, and it just works. So initially, no, I was really awkward with it.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Again, life brings us, we don't need to go seek for it, right? The seeker wanderer is seeking, but life just keeps bringing us things and keeps ringing that doorbell until we really let it in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I did. I went down to London and did an introduction weekend with my friend Louise. And then after that, I went on to do my practitioner course with my teacher Karani down in Salisbury. And I think we all come to these modalities often thinking, going into it with the intention to share. But it's also my experience that most of the time we're just progressing on our own journey, and it's nearly always about our own unfolding and deepening of our own journey, which for me it absolutely was. The bottles have just been, they're just a revelation. They really are. you know, as I keep saying, they just work. And, you know, the system's called color mirror because they absolutely mirror you. So yeah, it's whatever's going on for you in any given moment. You know, one day one bottle might feel one way, and then the next day it might feel something completely different.
I love that. Love it. And that comes back to, we always in spirituality will refer to life as one big mirror, right? Everything reflecting back to us. So it makes absolute sense to me. I think something that I would love to ask, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because I don't think I prepared you for this, but I did that on purpose because I want your intuitive answer. I want it to be from your heart. Would you, I, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Would you call this intuitive therapy?
For me, yes. The biggest part of my work that I do with people is intuitive. I kind of go a little bit rogue where color mirrors is concerned, and luckily I have the backing of my teacher. She encouraged me to go fully rogue always because she could see the way that I worked with people.
Yes.
So absolutely intuitive. You know, I kind of am very open to and encouraging people to share with me how it is for them, and really is about asking the right questions and reading the energy, and yeah, rather than telling people what the bottles mean. They all have their own meaning and story and vibration, but for me it's always paramount what it means to the person who's sat with me, whether that's in my room here or the other side of a phone or camera. So it is absolutely intuitive, and I'm grateful for that intuitive guidance, because if I had to remember the meanings of all the 100 odd bottles, I'd be stuck.
Yeah, for sure. It's analysis paralysis, right? Not just for you, but for somebody who's engaging with them. If it was thousands of bottles, it could be too overwhelming. But what you have there is just such a inviting wall. And I'll share just from my perspective, when we were chatting the other day, and um, you asked me, you said, I'm just curious, which are you drawn to? And I sent you the two that were calling to me. Um, and being far away, being global was not an issue because you were able to take the photo of the image I was drawn to and intuitively give me a beautiful reading of the two bottles that I chose. And I loved it. It was so powerful. And I didn't need to be in the room with you. And that's why I'm encouraging this conversation, because Victoria is able to offer this modality regardless of where you are. Although the beautiful bottles are behind her, the ability for her to be in a room like she is right now and walk over to the wall and allow you to look at them and then have her make sure that it's the right bottle and then kind of intuitively guide you through what she's getting for that chosen color, is such a powerful thing. So, number one, thank you for that the other day. I wasn't expecting it. It was such a beautiful morning when I woke up and had that offering and that response. But if you wouldn't mind perhaps going over to the bottles, I would love for you to, pick a few up and hold them so that we can see the oil in the water and how beautiful they really are. And maybe a little bit about what you would do if I were sitting in the room, as the next
Yeah.
plausible step. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does work, you know, via the internet, because as you said, I can just turn the camera around and then we pick the bottles just like we would if we were, you know, in the room together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just turn the camera around and have the camera focused on the bottle. So yeah. So if I was working with somebody, I would be asking, you know, what I would have heard what was coming up for them, and I would be asking them to feel into their bodies and just to, you know, to try and come out of their head a little bit and just to pick a bottle that resonates with the energy that's within the body. You know, I'm constantly saying to people, don't overthink it. You know, it doesn't have to be a colour you like. You don't have to give me the words for it. Just to feel into it and to pick a bottle And most people don't even know why they're picking it, which is perfect. It's just like whichever one stands out for you, just go with that. And then we just pick a bottle. Whoops, sorry. Whatever that may be. You're better against a white background. Oops. My camera skills are somewhat lacking.
You're fine. Oh, they're beautiful.
How beautiful. This one's a gorgeous bottle. It's number 19 and it's called Buddhic Bliss. But I wouldn't share that with anybody that I was working with initially. As I said, I'm always just most curious in how the bottle feels to them. I would encourage people to hold the bottle, to see how it feels, to see, notice any tensions in the body where they're arising. And then we'd go into that. And from there, we would, ask different questions, questions around what's coming up and what's needed. And then we use different bottles in support. So it might be that a difficult memory or emotion is evoked. And then I would ask, well, what would you need in support? Because all along it's giving a voice to, aspects of ourselves that are normally deeply buried or, not normally given time or, to see the light of day. And what I love about this modality is it's so gentle. Often people don't have to fully verbalize what it is that's coming up for them, but it's just using the bottles and the colors to, to give them a little door, a little window into being heard.
I love it. I love it. And the fact that you're utilizing the colored mirrors, and you're engaging, are you finding that the folks that come to you come right on time, and that there's a theme or some kind of a clear message that comes through? So perhaps they pick several bottles. Do you notice through the session that you're intuitively drawn to see some of maybe their loopholes or their cycles or areas where they're getting stuck or attaching or clinging, that you're able to help them break through before they leave the session? Like, what do you traditionally see somebody take away from the time without obviously sharing what the intuitive message is? What do you kind of see them walking away with?
I mean, when I'm working with people, obviously from the colours they pick or the bottles they pick, I can generally see, get an idea of what's going on. But it's, as I said, that's always really secondary to what they bring to the table. Mm-hmm. For me, it's always about asking the right questions. That's imperative, being able to guide somebody and create the space to be able to look at something from a different perspective, to zoom out almost out of the problem so we can give it enough air to breathe. And 9 times out of 10 people walk out a lot lighter because they've been given the tools to look at something from a different perspective, and without judgment. There really is no judgment here. I've been through such a lot myself. There's just nothing I'm unwilling to hear and able to create space for. So nearly always people leave a ton lighter.
Yeah, that's beautifully articulated, because I think that's the power of sharing this intuition coming through us, right? We're the microphones. We are getting out of our own human avatar's way to let the message come through us and to us, and deliver the message without any ego, without any judgment, or trying to define or decipher or overanalyze what's coming through the message. Or the craft of itself is delivering the perfect message. So I love how you just articulated that, because I think that's something powerful for someone to come in, especially if they're going through something very heavy like grief, trauma, suffering, post-traumatic stress, sleeping issues. So with all of that, I just mentioned a lot of things could be coming in with, but are there others that I missed that, people come forward hoping to clear or to transmute, that the modality allows you to help work with them?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above, and just often just a general feeling of stuckness, feeling like there's no clarity on their path. People are often, on a path and going in a certain direction, but it doesn't seem to be unfolding as they would want to. So it's about being able to find out why. It really is about path clearing. So, for example, I was recently working with a client who was struggling on a chosen path that meant the world to them. They absolutely wanted to be going in this direction, but they were being, shoved into this tiny box, which was so uncomfortable. And for me, I'm all about encouraging people to step outside of that box, to create something of their own, to make it their own. The biggest part of my work is encouraging people to be themselves, in a world that is so committed to defining us. My absolute passion is to support people in defining themselves. I mean, it's heartbreaking to me that people come to me because they don't fit into society's ideals, or they don't fit into the course that they're doing, or the degree they're studying for, or the relationship they're in. My absolute passion is to allow people to grow into that, to become more of who they are, and to release the tension and the all the restraints
I love
around.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. And that creates a space for them to then deepen that area with you, right? And explore it a little bit more. And I think what's so super cool about the bottles themselves is it gives you, as kind of the one guiding them, a tangible thing for them to touch and hold, that, and if they're on camera, to see and to relate to, that's outside of themselves. Because I don't know about you, but the work that I do, I find that the biggest block is getting away from ourselves and our own BS, right? Our own
Absolutely.
garbage that we bring to the room. And by having a shift to a modality like an object, I think it's a powerful precursor to then allow you to not necessarily even really need the bottle itself, but the color to lead into what will help to remove that blockage. So to me, again, it's so divinely beautiful.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess talk a little bit more about, do you have people that come quite regularly, or how often is someone coming to you, especially if they have a big block or grief or something they're trying to deepen in their understanding and release? What does that look like? Do you do packages so people can be repeat visitors and have repeat sessions? Like, I'd like to understand how that works.
Yeah, I'm really kind of flexible and open to people just coming as and when they feel the need to. I really encourage people just to come when they're drawn. Some people will come and they'll come regularly for a few weeks or a few months, and then I won't see them again for a couple of years. And then they'll be back in contact, if there's something I really want to work through. I'm really open to working like that. I'm just so constantly handing the power back. Absolutely, I'm here for you. Shout if you kind of got anything you want to work through. Very yeah, just flexible, I guess. Yeah, we're talking about how the modality works, or how I work with the color mirrors modality. It really is, I always say, it's a gentle in. It's great for people to, well, you know what it's like when you walk into any kind of therapy session, or the most difficult question to answer is, so how are you, or how are you feeling, or so what's going on for you? It's very difficult to start. And that's what I love about color mirrors. It's just like, you don't even have to talk to me, just sit down, we'll connect with a few deep breaths, and then I'll just say, pick a bottle. It's kind of it's mediation almost. It takes it a little step removed from ourselves. it takes us outside of ourselves just a little bit, and it's easier to talk about something outside of ourselves rather than to dive right in. And that's what I love the most. And nearly always, you know, people say, oh, I don't know what this means, or oh, I don't even like this colour. And then within minutes, it's like, oh, that's weird, you know, I've got a headache or feel nauseous, or this reminds me of, or, you know, I can hear this song in my head, or I can smell this, or it takes me back to school, or, you know, I've lost count of the different, you know, the places and the journeys I've been on with the bottles. And, you know, each person's going to go on a different journey with each bottle every time they come. So it's just, yeah, about holding space and being divinely guided in the right direction.
That's so cool. Like I said, the other day when you surprised me with, I'm just curious what, what bottle you're drawn to without disclosing what was shared. I sent you some photos back and said, I'm drawn to this one, but I'm also drawn to this one. And spot on. Her response to me was spot on both the bottles. What I loved was, again, it was something outside of myself that I could see. So if you are someone who doesn't trust in intuitive reading without having something tangible, this is such a cool modality because you are the one drawing forward the energy of that. It's calling you specifically. There's no way for Victoria to make up which bottle you're going to choose. You can see there's so many on the wall. And the delivery of the message that she was able to provide back was spot on for both of the bottles. And I have chills just talking about it now because, again, it was so nice not to have to converse about what I was feeling or what I was going through. She didn't need any of that. She just said, what bottle you're drawn to. So with that, I know that your teacher's supporting this, and I love that. That says she's a good teacher to step outside of using the program differently than maybe it's delivered, right? Instead of picking a bottle and going into a book and just reading what that bottle is, you're intuitively aligning. So talk a little bit about that, if you could.
Well, for instance, you know, recently I did a kind of a retreat day. I didn't know what else to call it. You know, I really had this vision of wanting to gather people together and to spend a day deeply relaxing, you know, meditating, spending time in nature, and it would all be supported by the colour mirror system. Inevitably on these kind of days, you know, people's stuff comes up, and I have the bottles, my trusty little friends behind me to support people. So on that day, the one lady took 3 bottles outside with her. We'd gone through some work in the morning, and these 3 bottles had come up as we were working through an issue, and she took them outside with her, walked around, you know, felt into them, you know, sat with what we discussed in the morning. Yeah, she took them outside and, you know, just allowed them to process. You know, these kind of things take on a life of their own. You know, when we give ourselves permission to look at whatever's coming up for us, you know, things start to unfold. You know, they realize that they'd been looking at things in a way that wasn't all that helpful, and they found a new way to look at it. And for me, you know, it's kind of just supporting people in finding their own ways. You know, I'm a big believer that, you know, we all absolutely have the answers that we need. It's just, you know, as you said earlier, getting out of our own way so we can see that, you know, really just allowed the process to unfold. You know, often these things do without any kind of intervention when we're given the space. And she came back just feeling, you know, completely lifted, that that the bottles had kind of worked their magic. Yeah, and what I love most about the system is, obviously I have all these bottles in my house all the time. So if I'm feeling any kind of funky, I can just come in and see what stands out to me. And I think now is a great example to go and pick a bottle, which I just did, because I'm so far outside of my comfort zone. You know, even just chatting with you about something that I absolutely love. And this is without a doubt my life's work and my sole purpose. So I just stood up and I thought, right, I'll be the client.
Show us what you picked. Hold it up so we can.
I ask myself, now which one's really standing out?
Oh, it's so pretty. See, I go right to how beautiful they are, but look
They
at
are. It
that.
is this one. It's yeah, really, really blue and green on the bottom. And this bottle is obviously, if I was working with anybody, I'd say, well, how does that make you feel? And it's funny that I picked this one because I am struggling to communicate as clearly as I would love to, because I've got so much I want to share with you. But this bottle's communication. And what I find interesting about this bottle also is there's a real energy in this bottle of persecution. You know, it's kind of often tells a story of somebody who's, put their head above the parapet and got shot down. Yeah, it really speaks often of an energy of persecution, a fear of speaking up and speaking out, and using myself as an example. That's absolutely something that I wrestle with on a regular basis. Another bottle that I absolutely love is this one called the Hermit.
The Hermit, did you say?
Yep.
Oh, that's gorgeous too. Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful.
Yeah, they sit next to each other in the system. They're 31 and 32. And green, very much about boundaries, the heart, speaking the heart, communication. And as I said with this one, a fear of persecution, it can go back lifetimes. People, often women who spoke out about things that they were passionate about back in the day, often were normally burned at the stake. We were all witches. Anybody that lived by the old ways and traditional ways, and any kind of passion was unwelcome. So when it comes to communication and me, there's that bottle comes up a lot. And then the Hermit, which speaks about really wanting to retreat into one's cave, which at times can be absolutely necessary and needed, and at times we could do with coaching or coaxing out. And I think that's where I work well with people. It's trying to read into what that person needs. Do they need to retreat into the cave? I mean, it's where we do our deepest and our most profound work often, is when we retreat into the cave and really go into ourselves, and have a look around there in the dirt and the darkness, and and find the treasures.
Oh,
And then there
yeah.
are times in life where we need to come out, where we've been in the cave way too long. That's me, cave dweller that I am. And we need to come out. So it's in those situations really that I always use my intuition. It's like, is this person needing to go in more? Are they needing to come out? What are they needing? And then asking the right questions to allow them to find what they need for themselves. I kind of have an idea of what's needed, and will guide them to finding the answers for themselves, because they're the answers that we listen to. Essentially, if people are picking bottles and I'm telling them what they mean, I'm kind of doing them a disservice, because it's so important in life to find our own answers. That's what matters. It doesn't really matter what I'm thinking, because we're kind of adding layers then instead of peeling them away, and that's what's important.
I love that. I love everything about this, Victoria. And I just, again, this is not a one and done interview. I think there's so many places we can go with this and explore. I definitely want your followers and my followers to come back to us with things they'd like to understand about this work, and how they can get in contact with you and investigate a little bit more. So we're going to put in the description of this video how you can get in touch with Victoria if this is something you feel drawn to and led to explore a little bit more. We welcome that. I mean, I've got followers who come to me for intuitive guidance, but it's always good to balance that out with other modalities. And I love being able to share with others these modalities that I get excited and passionate about, because I felt your passion. I was just drawn in. Um, so with that, and this amazing introduction to the therapy work that you're doing, and the intuitive guidance that you're offering, are there any last kind of tie out questions or things you'd like to to say to the folks who are interested in following along?
Yes, probably loads. I would just love to invite people to dive in. It kind of, at first, it's kind of can seem a bit strange because it's not a well-known modality, although it is growing really rapidly at the moment. Just to try it, just to pick a bottle, to reach out and just pick a bottle and then go from there. Just to dive into something new.
Yeah, and like I said, she did it for me the other morning without any request, just because we had talked about it, and I think she was, just like me, we're like little kids and we get so excited about the work we do because we're so passionate that we want to share it with others. And that's exactly how it felt. It felt like just such a beautiful blessing in sharing. So definitely, if this is something you're interested in exploring more, don't be afraid to reach out to Victoria. Do so. And again, we can re-loop back around if the folks who watch this have more questions when we release this video, because I think there's so many other avenues we can explore with this. She's not limited to global audiences. She's able to do this, as we mentioned, over Zoom. And I'm just excited that she's coming out because, like me, we're very much alike again. We can do this peopling thing and this humaning thing, but we both, as you so beautifully said, we go into what did you call it? You had a different word for it.
Into the cave.
To the cave. I call it the cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to go into my cocoon and disappear. So I'll be on social media a lot and then I disappear and people get worried and I say, no, integration is a must. We're getting these constant intuitive software downloads and we need to integrate. But with that, also know whether you're an intuitive, you're someone who does other types of work modalities, why wouldn't you connect with someone who can offer a different modality and a different way to see things? I mean, that's what this human experience is about, right? So um, I'm all about, pushing people out of their comfort zone like Victoria is, and getting them to spread their wings and expand their consciousness to other ways that they can reach different modalities. And this is definitely one, you guys. So thank you, Victoria, for coming on today and sharing this powerful gift that you have in your beautiful home and studio. And I definitely will embed some photos of her animals and the way that she lives, because again, it's very similar to me in that we retreat to our safe bubbles and are in nature around animals and our families, and it's no coincidence that that's where we feel the most connected away from it all. So thank you for coming out of your cave and joining us today.
No, I'm really grateful for the opportunity, although it's really scary. Walking the talk, it's what it's all about.
And you did amazing. And I have to tell you guys, the sweetness that's coming through in this video is her authentic self. Yet, don't let her fool you. This woman has jumped out of airplanes. How many times have you jumped out of airplanes now, Victoria?
I think I have. I don't know if it's 70 or 80 jumps, but yeah,
We'll try and get her to send
at
us.
least 70 times.
Yeah, we'll get her to send a few of her fun clips, because do not let this delicate sweetness, which is her truth, fool you. She is a badass, this one. And it's another thing that I love about her. She can be playful, childlike, whimsical, badass, gentle, nurturing, in grief, in her suffering. Her vulnerability and depth is her truth, and she shares it. And I love that about you. So thank you for showing up. Even though this is out of your comfort zone, you did amazing. And I am impressed as heck with this system, and I definitely want to help get it more awareness about it here in the United States. So again, we'll put all of her details in the description. We can always revisit and do another chat like this, maybe a coffee chat, and maybe we'll push her even further out of her comfort zone with a live, because we'll do it together. And And definitely, you guys, don't be afraid to ask questions or offer support towards Victoria and the work that she's doing. I adore you. I love you. I'm so honored that you're one of my friends. And one day we will hug in person. I do know this.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing. I would love that.
Same, same. So until next time, guys, thank you for following. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for looking at these beautiful bottles. Oh my gosh, I'm just overwhelmed by how stunning they are and how truthfully she connects with them. It's gorgeous. So until next time, much love.
Thank you.
Thank you.